to just start us off by just kind of going over some things about this venue, and then we'll have a go at it. So this is our first virtual seniors lunch, and I've been hearing from people in the community that one thing that I can do in my position as the senior safety coordinator, and I know my name's not coming up there, so it's Cassandra Yonder for those of you that may not have met before. But one thing that's being asked of me in my job is to find ways for us to stay socially connected while we're physically distancing. And so I started the seniors party line. Well, that was actually in place before, and that's just a chat line where people can call in on call in on Monday afternoons between 1 and 3, and you can either join by video or by telephone. It's mostly used by telephone, and it's just an opportunity for people to hear one another's voices. There's no agenda, there's no topic, it's just a place to connect. So it's been kind of a valuable thing. And then since the in-person seniors lunch was so successful, I thought it would be a nice way to get some of you who are already familiar with the seniors lunch to make it go virtual. So I imagine I've been getting some people from other communities too. This is mostly familiar faces here who would have attended the St. Anne's Bay event regularly, but I hope that we'll get some seniors like from the Lunch and Learn in Niels Harbor, or sort of be able to extend this a little bit. So I imagine that this could get busy. If it stays a nice sized group like this, then I think there's no need really to be on mute or to turn off your camera. I think it can be a group. We can just enjoy one another's company. But if it gets big or it gets noisy, then we'll start sort of muting people so that whatever presentation is going on that day. So we have a number of presenters lined up. Today we have Dan Coffin, and I'll get Peggy to introduce him. Next week, Alicia Lake is going to be speaking about food security and food-related issues, what's going on with the food hub. And there's a estate planning thing lined up, and nutrition, and yeah, different aspects of health and safety related to COVID-19. So there's a bunch of great stuff coming up, and I'm open to suggestions too. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me. And if you yourself would like to give a presentation or know someone, and I know Peggy has some resources too from organizing the seniors lunch, so we'll all work together. But I guess first of all, it wouldn't be really cool to meet in a group like this at this time without acknowledging the deaths that happened over the weekend in Nova Scotia. So just to make a little bit of emotional room for that, we're all dealing with that at this time. And also obviously the pandemic that's keeping us apart from one another. So I'm really grateful that all of you have showed up to share this virtual space and to see sort of how it could be. So my partner Kurt and I ran an online school for the last 5 years, and so we would have our class meetings in this space. So it's a space that's comfortable for me, but it takes a little while to kind of get used to being together in this way. One thing I find helpful is that actually to be on video and to have your picture on, even if you're not talking, because it's so nice to be able, when you are sharing ideas and information, to be able to see smiling faces look back at you. And I can tell from being the person in the presenting seat that the regular communications of like nods and smiles, or yes, I agree with that, or thumbs up, it's all so helpful. So yeah, please engage. So I invited Dan to speak today, and it's helpful to have him because he's really knowledgeable about the technology, so we can kind of work out some bugs. And I think almost everyone is on the computer. I've got one caller, which is showing up as a 3141 number. So if that's you, if you want to speak, then you can use *6 on your phone, which is a toggle that will mute and unmute yourself. So whoever that toggle is, we can hear Lorna. Whoever that toggle is can use *6 to mute and unmute. Oh, there we go.
Hello.
Hi, who's that?
Hi. This is Chris and Judy King.
Yay! Oh, welcome. Oh, I'm glad you were able to do that toggle thing. Great.
Yeah.
So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Peggy to introduce Dan. And I would encourage people to go on mute, especially if there's background noise. I'm going to mute myself because I've got little ones running around. But if it's not noisy and it's a conversational time, then just you can leave yourself unmuted. And yeah, I guess I'll just jump in if there's any problems. Another way to communicate with me, I'll just be here in the background watching, is to use the chat. So if you write something
Can
there,
you hear me?
yes, we can hear you, Lorna.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, that's wonderful. If it gets noisy in the background for you there, I might mute you. But if you want to come off mute, you'll be able to do that yourself, or just let me know in the chat, or um, press *6 if you're using your telephone. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, welcome. I'll turn it over to you, Peggy.
Okay, I'm introducing Dan Coffin. He is the new Tourism and Development Officer for the municipality of Victoria County. He says he's been in the position since last June, but he brings a wealth of knowledge to the position. He's been in tourism for more than almost 18 years, he says. He was general manager at Silver Dart Lodge, marketing manager for Celtic Colors, as well as marketing manager for Destination Cape Breton. And he says he's very excited to be working with local tourism groups and businesses to best position Victoria County to reach its potential as a tourism spot in Cape Breton and Nova Scotia. So over to you, Dan.
Thank you very much, Peggy. And for those of you that aren't aware, I'm currently living in Sydney, and I grew up in Sydney basically all my life. And after high school, I moved away to university in Halifax. But about 15 years of living away from Cape Breton, I absolutely had a desire that I needed to come back. And my whole approach was to get back to Victoria County. So although I grew up in Sydney, I've spent every summer in St. Anne's Bay. My father bought a piece of property there 55 years ago now, 5 acres of land on the Cabot Trail on the water side as well for about $250. And he's put 55 years of blood, sweat, and tears into that property now, and it's become our family mecca to a large extent. So my return to Cape Breton in 2006, 2005, 2006, I found myself living in St. Anne's, and it was the place that I want to retire and spend the rest of my life. So having the opportunity to join Victoria County in this position brings me so much closer to that goal as well. So it's a great honor to be able to work in this county, and I think be able to present to folks like you is important as well. I will be bringing up a presentation here in a second. I'm going to keep it very informal. And first, before I go too far, I just want to make sure everybody can hear me okay. So just give a wave if you can hear okay, and maybe a thumbs down if you can't.
Yep, hear you.
Excellent. So what I'm going to do, similar to as you would if you were sitting in a room and somebody were to bring a presentation up on the screen, I'm going to flip over and share my screen. So you're going to see the presentation, and you'll see along the side of the screen will be all the little windows of people's faces as well once the presentation is up. I did prepare this for an event I guess it was back in early March. So most of the content in here is focused on the tourism activities prior or pre-COVID-19. So I did add a slide at the end to discuss some of the new realities under the coronavirus and COVID-19 issues that we're facing now with tourism. And I can speak to those points a little bit as well. But there's been a lot of activity, obviously, over the last 3 to 4 weeks on dealing specifically with this. Hopefully the material's not too dry. I am keeping it very focused on tourism, obviously, but it gives you guys an insight as to what our goals are and what the strategy of tourism in our area is as well. So without further ado, in order to share a screen in Zoom, if you guys are looking to do a presentation yourselves, similar to where you found your chat box, there's a little button there that says share screen. And when you click share screen, when you click that, it gives you an option of, if you have a bunch of different programs on your computer open, you can pick and choose what program it makes available, or you can choose to make any of your desktop screens available at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and share one screen. I'm actually going to flip between 2 different presentations because I prepared a slideshow that only works in one program, but we'll do that one first. And I'm going to start off a little bit with, where's that one at? Here we go. This was a little slideshow that I wanted to prepare for basically looking at some activities that happened this winter. So it's just a raft of images. They go rather quickly, but it's really showcasing. A lot of people focus on tourism in Cape Breton, especially on the summer. Winter in Cape Breton is, as those that live it and breathe it every day, you must agree that it is exceptional. When you get out and enjoy it and you're prepared for it, there is lots to do. With the developments going on in Ski Cape Smoky, with the Bedeck multi-use trail program running out of Bedeck, and the multitudes of adventure activities being explored for northern part of this island. The future for winter in Cape Breton is going to be very big, and we're pushing it and trying to promote it in a way that it's sustainable, that it helps get more employment for the businesses that are already existing before ever looking at attracting new businesses in. We want to make sure that it is sustainable and helps drive more employment and more business to those that are already in existence. We don't really want to see a huge influx if it's not needed, because that will obviously affect some of the current businesses. And then the last slide here, this is A for Adventure is an adventure tourism group based out of Nova Scotia, and they tend to travel around all over the world doing a lot of different adventure tourism focused things. And they've really taken a big set of arms around Cape Breton, and this was their comments from being here this winter. A is for the amazing Aspy Bay. The Highlands of Cape Breton is winter done right. It has it all. Today we snowshoed, skied, hiked, biked, and threw down some serious high fives, and you would too if you were here. So this is from Aspy Bay up the top of the island there, and some amazing views in there. So I'm thinking you guys can all still see me. I'm going to pop into the regular presentation now, and if you guys do have questions along the way, I see Mary has risen her hand. So Mary, do you want to ask a question? Or you might have to type it, do you? I don't know if Mary's audio is working.
I don't know. I'm going to try to unmute Mary, but I think they might have been playing around, and I don't know if they knew that we could see them, but we could. Mary's iPad, we could see you. I'll try to unmute you.
And if people have questions, don't hesitate to raise your hand. I will find a moment to take a break and get into that with you.
Okay, so I think they're just playing, figuring out the technology. I wasn't able to unmute, but Mary's iPad, we could see you before, but we can't see you now, just to let you know where we're at from this end. And if you want to unmute, if you're on a phone, you could use *6 to mute or unmute. Sorry, go ahead, Dan.
You guys are seeing that my screen is giving me an unexpected error has occurred. I don't know what that's going to mean. Hopefully my presentation exists after this, but let me just give me a second here.
I was thinking that was my unexpected error, so that's good.
Unfortunately, give me 1 second, see what I can come up with here.
No worries.
Always technology things, right?
I hear most people around these parts seem to be more excited about summer than winter. Is that true for the group? I wonder how people feel. I love winter. In fact, March and April, I think, is my favorite time of year in Cape Breton.
I love winter.
You can have my share.
Well, I don't want to say anything.
We're just testing the mic here. Can you hear us?
Yes, yay, we can hear you.
Me?
Okay,
Welcome. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Well, I've been watching you all along and hearing you, but I just got the audio.
Just get
Excellent.
permission for audio for iPad.
Okay.
You want the video?
Yeah.
Then I can see you.
I had all my-
Yay.
Rudy?
Everything. I just couldn't talk to you.
Okay.
I've been here all along. I just couldn't talk to you, but I've got it now, I think. The audio.
Looks like a great presentation. Should I put you on mute?
Great so far, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I'm just showing you. You can go on mute then if you want to, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Great. Thanks a lot.
Hi, Trudy, Mary.
Hi.
Nice to see you.
Well, I've been here all along. I just couldn't talk to you.
Yeah. I wanted to say hi. Oh, Cassandra.
This one works.
Right.
All right, how does that look?
Yep. Good.
Let's just hope it's the right presentation now. I think it is. It's the only one that has this picture. So for those of you that aren't aware, this picture is coming from the northern part of the island, but it's a Mount Tenerife, or Tenerife Mountain. Has become a very popular hiking destination, and as you can tell, the vistas are just spectacular. I just got to have to figure out how to advance my slides now. So today, guys, I'll do a quick little welcome and introduction of myself, I guess, and tourism with regards to Victoria County. I'll do a little quick overview of, it might not be that quick, but an overview of Victoria County's tourism strategy and our goals upcoming, as well as some of the challenges and opportunities that have been identified over the last little while. And then talk a little bit about the new realities under COVID-19 and some of the challenges that we're facing as a tourism industry as they relate to current times. Obviously that could change by tomorrow, so things are in flux for sure. And then certainly want to open it up and allow anybody that has questions to go ahead and ask questions and move forward from there. So my role is the Tourism and Development Officer for Victoria County. This picture was actually taken October 3rd, 2010 at about 7:30 in the morning, I believe. We arrived at the top of Cape Smoky at 6 in the morning that day, waiting for the sun to rise. And this was one of the first destination Cape Breton photo shoots that I was responsible for in the role there. And it's a picture that I always go back to because it was just one of those moments, having moved back from Halifax to Cape Breton, and it was a happy place. And to find myself at 7 in the morning on the top of Cape Smoky in the middle of the highway was quite a unique spot. So I tend to use that picture quite often in introductions, but it's kind of the starting point of tourism in my life. So my trajectory, I guess, looking at it, back in graduating university, I went on to work in shopping center management, and my role was basically working with tenants of shopping centers to help manage and deliver the marketing of the shopping centers themselves. Moving on, due to relationship issues from that position, I decided not to take a move with the same company and ended up changing positions, which shortly after that led me to say, you know what, that wasn't the right move, but I wanted to get back to my heart, and the relationship fell apart. So I got back to my heart in Cape Breton. In 2005, returned here. I also joined working with Lorna and her husband Jim at the time at Piper Pewter. I apprenticed with them for a number of months and worked for probably a little over a year in different capacities, helping out with the business. And from there moved on to work with Paul down at Cabot Shores, and was his operations manager for a number of months prior to the folks at Silver Dart finding me at that point. And with my property management experience in the past, the owners at Silver Dart, Don Mingo at the time, had recruited me away from Cabot Shores. So I ended up in Bedeck working for the Silver Dart for about 3 years. From there, went on to work with Celtic Colours after Max McDonald had retired. He was in charge of the marketing for Celtic Colours, and they needed somebody to take that role on. So I started working with Celtic Colours for that year. And at that same time, Destination Cape Breton was transitioning into the destination marketing organization that it is now. And that's when, if you recall, the levy was beginning to be instituted to tourism operators. So I joined Destination Cape Breton at that point in charge of their marketing, and did that for a number of years as well, before identifying that all the operators and with my skill sets, there was a lot of opportunity to work with individual operators to expand their knowledge in digital marketing and websites, social media management, and all of those areas. So stuff that I had learned through Celtic Colours and Destination Cape Breton's roles, I was able to then put to use in helping operators expand their business and improve the footprint, the digital footprint of Cape Breton was my main goal. That business actually had done quite well, but I did have a little falling out when I lost a major contract in 2016-17. And that put some serious strains. It was 62% of my income at the time, so it put some serious strains on the ability to keep that business running in a small community like Cape Breton. So in June of this year, I actually found myself starting that trek back to Bedeck again and working for Victoria County in Tourism and Development Officer position. So my role itself is very much high level. It's a county-wide overview of all the tourism activities and initiatives that are taking place. I'm ultimately not really responsible for making them happen, but I see myself as that key integral support and resource person that helps people deliver the programs they want to see happen and actually understand some of the stats and the resources as to how to make decisions that can effectively improve their business going forward. So part of the goal is to communicate resources around challenges and opportunities, advocate on behalf of those operators. So when there's issues happening that require government lobbying, like we're seeing right now with support programs required to keep businesses sustainable, that's a big part of the role, and help with external organizations to make sure that our operators within Victoria County are getting the due diligence they need to make sure that things are working in our favor. Also work quite closely with a lot of nonprofit regional tourism or development groups, similar to SABTA, St. Anne's Bay Development Association, or BABTA, the Beck and Area Business Tourism Association. There's Ingonish Development Association. So there's 6 different regional development groups within Victoria County that I work with on a regular basis to try to get issues on the table and to try and work through some of those challenges as well. And finally, a big part of the role, and I might have coined a little bit of this myself, but it's really to be a thinker, a dreamer, a bit of a cheerleader, and an engagement advocate for getting tourism-related experiences and businesses focused on what we're doing here in Victoria County. The reality is Victoria County has 30% of the overall fixed roof accommodations of Cape Breton Island. So of all the accommodations available in Cape Breton Island, 30% of them exist within Victoria County. We actually on average, we tend to bring in about 32% of the occupancy of the island lands in Victoria County as well. So we punch above our weight a little bit in that regard. Not a whole lot, but I think we can also build more of that market share as we expand our seasonality as well. So from a high-level strategy update, we had worked on a 3-year strategy that wrapped up basically at the end of 2019. Tom Wilson has done some amazing work for Victoria County in his years here. The effort that he put into the strategy for 2019 was exceptional, and it's really, there was, I think it was 172 different activities that happened in that 3-year period of advancing that strategy to basically understand more about what's available and what we're doing, and also understand a little bit more of how we can impact the market and what the market might be looking for when they come here. So the goals and objectives that came out of that strategy are still very relevant today, and you'll see that in another slide coming up. In order to get to that answer and to find out what those goals and objectives should be, we held a number of community engagement sessions, and this is where we worked with those community development groups to gather what the strategies and what the strengths and weaknesses are and opportunities are in each of those 6 regions around Victoria County, so we can identify a little more closely on what we can do to impact and better impact and make the industry a little more sustainable. So our goal at the beginning of March this year was to have our new 3-year strategy completed for this summer of 2020. Having COVID hit and all the other challenges that are coming with that, we're going to look to expand that out and have a new strategy in place for 2021 so we can fully encapsulate some of the issues that have developed with COVID and whatever fallout may come from it. Destination Cape Breton has been embarking for the last 6 months or so on a 10-year island-wide strategy, and that was just about to be launched in April of this year, which it was a really interesting process where we were asked as a group to sit down and group and as individuals as well, to sit down and vision our community in 10 years from now. And the exercise was so valuable because it really allowed you to put away all those roadblocks that we tend to throw up and say, in 10 years, and I walk through St. Anne's or the village of Bedeck or any area within Victoria County, what do I see? What do I feel? What are those nuggets of the community that make me feel good about it? And how do we work towards that goal? So that experience was valuable, and I think it will still ring true. We may have to re-exercise a few of those engagement sessions after the COVID crisis is over. But through that, we've identified certain anchor initiatives and upcoming opportunities as well. So certainly challenges. Our challenges for pre-COVID-19 were significant. In Victoria County, we can't downplay that we have some significant challenges around labor supply. It comes in so many different areas that we got housing challenges in Ingonish, in Bedeck, and Neils Harbor areas. And by housing challenges, there's a number of factors in that. We don't have the housing to suit the young upcoming families that want to move to this area because they don't have the income that can support that on a year-round basis. Alternatively, we also don't have that seasonal opportunity where people can rent a place. Now with Airbnb becoming so popular and so many monthly rentals being shifted to an Airbnb platform, we now have challenges in having a place for a person that wants to work in one of those communities for the summer, have a place to rent. And that's become a significant challenge within the industry. So Cape Breton Partnership is just finishing up a housing study. You guys may have seen some of that. And that study will go to help inform what we do next. There's also been some discussions with Venture Capital Solutions, which is a company that, or not even a company, it's more of a facilitative group that works within a community to create housing solutions. So whether it's seniors housing or whether it's affordable housing for younger families, they have a number of different models that can tap into funding programs nationally to help those programs develop. So there's going to be some similar approaches to what we're doing in healthcare coming up with housing, and how we get some community groups together to talk about those housing challenges and what each community wants to see for housing in their areas. That will all help feed that need for accommodations. If anybody's tried to get a meal in Ingonish last summer, you'll understand where these the labor supply challenges come in. Is, you know, they've got restaurants in Ingonish that are working so closely together, so they make sure that none of them are closing on the same days, so that they can meet the demand, but their staff can get a break. If we had more employees, they wouldn't have to close. they could rotate those employees, but there's not enough people to work in these businesses. Training and development has also become a huge issue. We're seeing from places like motor coach companies that are coming through, and from the Nova Scotia Department of Tourism, getting feedback that their customer service levels, even though we are a world-class destination with amazing things for people to see and do, the training and the level of service happening has been diminishing. And that also comes with the shortage in labor supply. So if we're turning over employees every year, how do we advance their skills and how do we improve their quality? So that's another issue that we're working on, both from a management leadership is one area, and that's being done through online courses. And there are some frontline customer service training that's upcoming for operators as well once we finally get open. Seasonality is another big issue. When you look at the sustainability of a business, we have a number of businesses in this county trying to make a year-long income off a 5-month window. Anybody that works in this industry can relate. You know, a lot of people probably have it down to a science if you've been doing it long enough. But it makes it sustainable for an individual, but not always sustainable for a business. There's been a lot of issues with businesses wanting to turn over and finally retire and have somebody come in and buy their business. But the model hasn't been built yet that shows how that business can become sustainable on a year-round basis, simply because we don't have the visitors coming here in the winter that can justify a place like a Piper Pewter to stay open all winter. So those are some of those issues on seasonality that we're working on. And certainly Destination Canada and Nova Scotia Tourism are all focused very closely on season extension. And how can we make those seasons longer and create experiences that are happening at that time of year? It may not have to be full open 4 months of the year, 4 seasons of the year, but we may pick 2 months in the winter and 3 months here and 2 months there. Each business can decide how they want to tackle that. So that comes into succession planning and attracting new investment, like a Ski Cape Smoky. Ski Cape Smoky's focused on drawing, once they're fully operational, their model is showing 600 skiers down their hill a day in order for them to be sustainable. So if we start seeing 600 skiers a day going down the hills at Ski Cape Smoky when they're up and operating, it's going to mean there's a lot more people in the area. It's going to mean there's a lot more demand for food. And food is probably one of the biggest opportunities in this area. And for a place like St. Anne's, being the community in between Ingonish and Bedeck, the accommodations area, the food service, those small services that are the key integral experiences that people, those are going to be beneficial. Is that me talking? Yeah. I can hear myself through somebody. The last one on the challenges is visitor focused. You know, there's a lot of signage issues, from aesthetics to clarity to maintenance of those signs. You know, these are more longer term goals that we'll look at, but signage becomes an area once that we want to identify and get a little more focused on from a visitor perspective. Evening activities and events in and around Bedeck. You know, if you're at a small property in a cottage at Cabot Shores, for example, you know, a lot of those activities are quite localized and quite easy to access. But you go to Bedeck at 7 o'clock at night or 7:30 at night, if you don't want to do the Bedeck Gathering Kayleys, there's not a whole lot to do. Yet there's thousands of people sleeping there every night. So there's things like that, that if we can encourage people to stay an extra 4 hours in any given community, we achieve an extra night stay. That's a model for tourism that's been a clear focus. So if we can get people to stay longer in any given area, we'll gain another night off that. And if we gain another night, we're getting more revenue in the coffers of the businesses at the end of the day. So which gives more opportunity for spending money. 70% of the travelers' money spent is usually done after 6 p.m. So it's a big challenge if we have no businesses open after that time. I don't know. Either my computer froze or my slideshow died. Hopefully this doesn't go slide forward, but it might. Okay, so tourism opportunities. I probably could have made this into 3 slides. Again, these opportunities have probably changed a fair bit since COVID-19 has come into play for us. Tourism business engagement is a big one. So when we look at networking opportunities similar to this, but bringing operators together, and we've done that through a Facebook tourism group at this point. We started last week just to try and get more networking opportunities for those businesses. Package development and packages are all about collaborating between businesses. A lot of times in the past, businesses would say, well, packaging to them means I need to add stuff to what I'm offering a visitor. What we want to see focusing on is we want to see that accommodation operator partner with the craft artisan or partner with the restaurant down the road, so that a visitor comes in and gets to buy one package, but gets to go and do a number of different things at a number of different places. And that just makes the whole experience much more enjoyable and easier to sell when it comes to a market. And it's really about coopetition, not competition. So a lot of places will sit there in their own business and look down the road and say, how come that guy's getting so many people stopping at their store or their location and I'm not getting them? And that's not really the focus we want to be on. We want to be saying, how can we work together to make sure more people come to Cape Breton or Victoria County instead of, Ontario or Florida? And that's done through, dynamic inventory of products and experiences. There's been a lot of work done in the last 5 years by Destination Cape Breton, especially in starting to walk away from kind of looking at geographic areas. So it's not always about attracting the person from Ontario or the person from northeastern United States. Our focus in a lot of senses is let's attract the people that want to do the things that we have to sell. So it's about authentic experiencers, which are people that like to get into the weeds of experiences and really live an experience. So they like the kayak tours and they like the cultural experiences that we offer at the Gaelic College of the Highland Village and those sorts of things. And then you've got cultural explorers as well that like to do the culture side a little more, but they also like to learn a lot. So they'll love the Alexander Graham Bell Museum and that sort of stuff. So those are kind of the ways we're approaching it. It's more about the traveler type as opposed to where they live and how much money they have, which is the way marketing has always been done in the past. Season extension, are we getting... Somebody's jingling. I don't know if that's me running out of time or what. But I only have about 2 slides left here. So season extension, I think we talked a lot already. How we're going to tackle that from the county's perspective right now is looking at what activities are out there that we can tie into. So even the image in my background here, Glass Artisans, I know they're eager to operate at different times a year, and they've done some Christmas campaigns in the past, and those are examples of the way things we would like to see season extension. It doesn't mean full open all the time. It means kind of identifying other opportunities and other dates that could work for you and offer an experience. Assessment of market readiness. So there's lots of opportunities out there. I do snowshoeing in my back property. I do maple tree tapping to make maple sap, but neither of those am I ready to go out and invite a visitor to come and do it with me and charge the money for it. So I would not be considered market ready. But a business who's doing that as an everyday thing, we want to go out and assess those businesses and see how ready they are to be marketed and to be an experience that would be second to none in a lot of cases. So it's really matching those assets with the potential visitor markets that are coming here. And then tourism training partnerships, I think we talked about already. But we're going to work very closely with TIANS, which is the Tourism Industry Association of Nova Scotia Community College, and Cape Breton University has last year launched what they call the World Tourism Institute. So their vision is really where we are a world-class destination. CBU has the resources and the students there that can do lots of research, lots of insights onto what the industry is looking for and what we have to offer. So they're going to really become a leader in helping drive tourism in the future, from a research base as well as an education base and a training base to make sure people have the training and the skills they need to deliver this experience. Another area that's clearly focused from many different angles is the authentic experience around Mi'kmaq experiences. So there we have the Wagmatcook just outside of Bedak, which is the only real Mi'kmaq community within Victoria County. But there are extensions of that, and you can see from Kelly's Mountain, the Goosecap legend of Kelly's Mountain. There's all kinds of other areas around St. Anne's and Aspey Bay and different areas, the Bedak Inlet, where there was significant Mi'kmaq involvement and communities in the past. So we're looking to kind of get better at telling that story of the Mi'kmaq in Victoria County, and also to try and work with them to try to deliver some experiences that can be awe-inspiring and really get you back to the real way things were done. And they can be culinary experiences. Theater and entertainment are also areas that we've identified as key assets that people are looking for. Infrastructure utilization, just to touch on that, that's a little more behind the scenes, and it's really something that I think is a huge opportunity for us now in light of COVID. The government is really focused on shovel-ready projects, so if we can get the federal government to be launching and approving dollars to develop this infrastructure that are shovel-ready projects, then we can have some new projects and products to be able to promote to visitors that want to come here next year. Some of the examples of that would be Ski Cape Smoky is one. That's an infrastructure asset that would be hugely beneficial to have open on time. There's a project coming out of Bedak right now, a multi-use trail that will see the ability to have connections between St. Anne's at the Gaelic College, Lewis Mountain Road, right into the village of Bedak by trail. So it could be bicycle, it could be walking, it could be ATV, snowmobile, depending on what time of year. So it really is a big multi-use trail project that will see, you know, anybody that's driven up Oregon Road on a Friday or Saturday or Sunday in the winter would know that there's a good 100, 150 trucks and trailers lined up along that road. Well, if we can get half of them to rent a room in Bedak and try to take their skidoo right from the village of Bedak out into the Highlands, it would be a huge boost to the economy and allow for people to have more employment opportunities as well. So it's stuff like that, and the Bedak waterfront is another project that's looking like it's going to get off the ground with trying to create a better access gateway to the Brewer Lakes. And so there's a lot of activity happening around infrastructure utilization, and there's probably lots in your communities that we could build upon and grow upon as well. Get the right button this time. Any questions so far? Hope I'm not boring you guys too much. This is all fun for me, but maybe not you guys.
Dan?
Yes.
It's Patsy. When you talked about challenges and opportunities, were these ones that were identified during your focus group sessions or your group sessions that were had throughout the community?
That's a great question. It was identified in twofold. So back when the first 3-year strategy was done in 2016, I guess it was, Tom and a consultant at the time had set up engagements in each community. And from those sessions, we were given a very clear list of challenges, opportunities, and possibilities for future. What I took on when I started this position is really looking at that document and saying, okay, from what was identified in 2016, what is still relevant today, and what challenges and opportunities do we need to shift in each community? So I went out working with those development groups in each community myself, starting with that list and saying, okay, from this list, what works and what doesn't work, and what do we need to tweak and change there? So it was actually a two-pronged approach, working on something that was done in great detail in 2016 and refreshing it a fair bit over the last 6 months.
Okay.
But some amazing insights, and it's interesting having worked, you know, I worked at Piper Pewter and Cabot Shores, but I've also spent time with Bob at Woodsmiths there as well. and quite familiar with some of the other businesses in the area. And looking at how things have shifted from 10 years ago till today, it's exciting to see. There's new blood coming in. There's some fresh ideas, and it's nice to see that mix of the sustainable, tried and true, mixed with some people that want to push the envelope a little bit as well. And I think that's the kind of mix that makes a vibrant and exciting community for sure.
Thanks.
I have a comment I wanted to make, and it's a comment and it's criticism, which is that it seems to me that Micmac is an awful old school term that is not appropriate to use anymore. I think the native people are usually referred to as the Mi'kmaq nowadays. Is that not appropriate?
That's an interesting, I don't disagree with your phrase, and I wouldn't even call it a criticism. The reality with Aboriginal tourism right now, and I use Aboriginal because across Canada, there's a lot of emphasis being put on different Aboriginal communities. If you were to refer to the Aboriginal people as Canada-wide, what they tend to want to refer to themselves as is Ilnu. So it's L''N''U. And that's all Aboriginal people. So that's an all-encompassing phrase, Ilnu. The local communities here are really just starting to draw that connection to tourism in a sense that there needs to be a commonality of phrasing at some point. So different communities have a different opinion in how they want to approach that, I think. At least that's the way I've heard it locally here. So I think what is formed in the last year and a half is the Nova Scotia Institute of Sustainable, it's NISTEN, NSITEN. And it is an Indigenous tourism focused group of Nova Scotia. And what they are doing is really working with all the Aboriginal communities of Nova Scotia to bring that knowledge together to say, what are we going to put out there as our go forward phrasing, expressions, and how they would prefer to be referenced in that capacity. You may very well be right in saying that there is some circles that may be frowned upon using Micmac. As a people, I think they refer to the Mi'kmaq. So instead of the Q at the end, it would be a W, and that would be the Mi'kmaq people, or the plural version of the phrase. And whereas Micmac would be more of the actual culture and but not the people per se, I guess. So it's there's a fine line there, and I don't think it's been fully clarified yet. There's some really exciting tourism opportunities in Western Canada right now, focusing on Aboriginal, and they are probably 5 years ahead of where we are in the sense of really expressing that culture and sharing that culture with the world. The desire is here, but there needs to be a lot of grassroots collaboration on how they want to express that and how they want to share that culture. So I don't think the end answer is there yet, but I think we're getting a lot closer to it. And once it is, having spent a lot of time in tourism and exploring the different aspects of powwows and the culture itself, the experience that these are going to bring will be phenomenal. And I get goosebumps just even referencing it myself. I attended a dance in Goat Island. One of the experiences that they have at Goat Island is it's a 2.5 kilometer trek around the island where you get to experience traditional culture in different settings. So they have 5 different stages around where you get to experience it. One of them is a dance. And as they were doing the dance, there was one gentleman doing the drumming, another one leading the visitors in a dance, and I had a couple of media writers with me at the time. And just as they started, as soon as that drum beat started, this wind whipped out of nowhere. And it came off the water, it swirled around, leaves picked up off the ground and started swirling around. And it was an exceptional experience that I have it on video somewhere. So I will try to share it out with Cassandra at some point, but it's just an amazing thing. And if we can get back to some of those grassroots, I think it would do a lot for our community as well. Yeah. Anyway, sorry to get off topic on that a little bit.
Okay, as a thanks for the response.
Sorry?
I didn't hear.
Sorry, I just heard Chris say thank you for your response, Dan.
Okay, great. Sorry, all I heard was response. So.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make my slides move forward, but for the life of me, I can't figure out how. All kinds of buttons to press, but nothing works.
I'm not sure when to make comments, so I'm waiting. Are you going to move on to the next new realities for 2020?
Yes, as soon as I think it's this slide, and then the new realities I'll jump to if I can.
Okay.
I don't want to drag this on too long, and I think I'm pushing it as it is. So the overall strategy goals, and many of these are relevant from the last strategy as well. We've identified that not many of the goals need to change. Our approaches to how we meet those goals will change a bit. But our ultimate goal in tourism is to increase tourism revenue. And that's just a given. That's going to benefit community. That's going to benefit individual businesses. It's going to create more work for people. But in order to increase revenue, we need to get people to stay longer. Doesn't need to stay longer every time they come, but maybe they come in the fall when they normally would only come for a day in the summer. Maybe they come for a second trip a year, or maybe they come back again later. We want them to do more when they're here. So we want them to not only sleep in a bed and eat at a restaurant. We want them to go on the tour. We want them to take that hike. We want them to do the things that are going to keep them in any given community longer. Any experiences like the Highland Bow that started up in that neck of the woods recently, it's a great opportunity to keep people in the community a little bit longer. And that's exceptionally strong from a tourism model to try and get more spend in the community. Season extension is an area that we're really going to focus on trying to drive that. And it's great from fall, winter, spring activities. And it may not be one size fits all, but if we can round out a package that works for an approach there, we're going to start to build that model towards a greater four-season destination. Improving service quality, we talked about already. Training and recruitment is the only ways we can impact that at the county level. And then increasing experiential products and experiences. So it's assessing what's out there now, assessing what is market ready and what's at that higher echelon that people can charge the big bucks for. And also working with those that aren't quite there, and how do we support them and provide resources to get that experience to a level that people are going to want to do. I don't know how I made that work last time.
Are we going to be able to go past the 12 noon?
If you want to, I'm good for it. I don't want to keep you guys hanging long.
I just want to know if there's any help for all the businesses on the Cabot Trail that are suffering because of COVID, the virus problem, and if the public health people could give them some guidelines of what they could do once the borders in the United States are open again. They all need some help and guidance on how to proceed.
I can speak to that, and I'll jump to that now a little bit as well. Pat, did you want to say something?
Well, that's part of the question I was waiting for, because having looked at the survey here, the Cape Breton Unamaki business survey that was sent out, some of the questions that are asked you can't answer the question because it doesn't allow you space, because my business does not fit into that category. We don't hire people. We do all the work ourselves.
Yeah, so I welcome you to reach out to me separately as well, Pat, because I think any of those comments, I'm welcome. My role has been very much focused on trying to reach out and talk to people. So I've created lists of businesses, and I don't even know all of the businesses in the county, but I'm trying to reach out to try and talk as much as I can. It is a key time right now for us to get that feedback into the ears of government. And we've actually created some really good inroads. About a week ago, I spent about an hour and a half writing an email capsulating a lot of the content and comments I was hearing of the programs that just aren't working, programs that people are falling through the cracks. We're in an area where we've got small businesses like yourselves that don't have employees. And how does that work for them? And a lot of these programs right now are built to suit a little bigger business and a little more year-round business. So what I'm hearing...
My groundwork showed that the Nova Scotia Small Business Impact Grant, I directly contacted them. They clearly said that we did not qualify. My bank manager also said that we didn't qualify for the CEB business.
CERB.
What? CBRB, we did not qualify for that. So So that's why I'm listening today. But I have your messenger page right here, so I'll send you an email.
Excellent. The other thing I'll say is Cape Breton Partnership has 32 staff working right now, and a lot of their focus is really on working with businesses to help navigate these. So they'll work side by side with you, talk with you, walk you through what steps you should take and what you need to do to get there and what programs work. Those programs are changing so much every day that it's hard to keep them all straight. So the partnership is focused on making sure they're straight with what programs are effective and what aren't, and they can help guide some of those questions. So my goal is really to reach out and get these conversations started, then pass people on to the partnership for extra help in that capacity. I will say I've been trying to attend as many government-focused approaches to this, and I heard this week actually from Jeff McCullen at a Cape Breton Regional Chamber of Commerce town hall that he had. There is not a lot of packages out there right now for tourism supports. The reality in Nova Scotia is most of these seasonal businesses haven't even opened yet, so the government doesn't have a clue how to attack that just yet. There is a lot of research and a lot of information being gathered right now, so that once we have an indication on how long this is going to take, can we open July 1st, can we open August 1st, can we open June 15th? Once we know when this can happen, it will really dictate what type of programs need to be rolled out and what needs to be done. One message I'm hearing clearly across the board is that if this, and I mean, it's clear from the new realities here, we're going to have a delayed season opening. It doesn't know whether it's going to be July, August. If we have to go into August without people open, there's going to be a significant amount of people that won't open. If places don't open and don't hire the staff that they used to hire in the summer, and their EI runs out next winter, what does that leave us for the summer of 2021? And that's a big concern. So one of the big pushes from most circles that I'm in is how do we sustain a guaranteed income for employees that we do not want to lose, so that we have them here to work in 2021, so they don't actually pack up and go somewhere else that does have work. So that's one of the long-term approaches and long-term focuses. We want to see a comfort level that there are going to be benefits there to keep those people satisfied and sustained right through till the next season if necessary. If this season does open, we are absolutely planning for the unknown right now. We're looking at how are we going to be, we don't know when the dates are going to be open. We don't know what festivals and events. Is Celtic Colors going to happen this year? That's a huge question mark. Hopefully being October, it should happen in some capacity. What it looks like might be a little different. There may not be 1,500 seat venues open. I can't see us jamming that many people into a small hall at this point. But there's lots of those discussions to be had. And really, when the market is open this year, who's going to come? Is it Atlantic Canadian market only? I know the marketing engines of Destination Cape Breton and the province are going to be focusing on Atlantic Canada only. And they're not going to be trying to draw people in from the northeastern US. Reality is we only get about 13% of our visitors that come to Nova Scotia or Cape Breton come from the northeastern US. So it's not a huge loss. Ontario, on the other hand, is about 25%. So there's a big chunk in Ontario that we need to be trying to focus on. And if we can get things open and get things operating, what's it going to look like? How is the customer service going to stand up? Are they going to be satisfied that they want to come back again in the next year? So there are some discussions happening on what can we do to market it, what's going to happen. Can we offer an Atlantic Canada incentive so that if you're coming from one of the Atlantic provinces, you get a discount? And can we make that happen so that we actually have, our goal will be to try and maintain a certain percentage of occupancy. And if we can get to a 30 or 40% occupancy over what we're used to, it's not going to be great for anyone, but man, it would be a bit of a win if we could get there.
Yes.
And the reality is everybody in the world is facing what we're facing. Vacation time's going away, sick time's going away. People are spending extra money that they had saved for vacations on the challenges that they're facing right now. So who's going to have money and who's going to have time to go on vacation once this is over? There's all those realities that we have to be focusing on. And the unfortunate side of it is Cape Breton in the last 3 to 5 years, we're number one. Like, we are the best island in North America. And there's so much push and momentum behind that we don't want to lose that.
That's right.
And then the final piece is that sustainability aspect. How do we make sure local residents support the businesses that do open? Because one of the challenges we're going to have is those businesses that open are going to have to make some money. And can we get a project together where we get local supports in the community helping to support those businesses, but also how do we manage the reduced services and that quality of experience as we go forward as well? So as a focus from the tourism angle, I'm going to be really shifting after the opening dates and stuff start to come a little more clear, I'm going to be shifting to how do we focus on best practices? How do we give supports to the industry to say, this is the level and standard of cleaning that needs to be happening. This is the standards that other places are using, so that we give confidence to the visitors that they can come here and not be exposed. The reality in BC, they're starting to flatten that curve a bit in BC, and their industry is starting to talk about reopening and what that could look like. I'm trying to model and look very closely at what they're doing, because they are usually 3 to 4 months ahead of us on a marketability standard. So if they're going out to market and building confidence with visitors that this is what they're doing in their business, the other fear that BC is having is, and everybody's not even close to talking about this yet, but there's a second wave that could happen. And if things happen too early, and if they push things too much, does the second wave hit in October and the fall of next year? And that's going to be detrimental to any industry. We might be a little bit lucky, and for the first time in our lives, being the last to get something might be might be a good thing. So, all right, patience is key is my last note. My last note there. It's most cases for sustainability, we're in survival mode. People are going to do what they can to survive through the year, and I think having some patience and explaining that to people up front, that it may not be the normal year, but nobody is experiencing a normal year this year. And here's a way to come and explore and at least feel safe and get some well-needed refreshment, I guess, in the sense of outdoor activity and outdoor spaces. So on that note, I think I went way over time. Sorry, Cassandra. But any questions, I feel free.
That's okay. Can you stop your shared screen, or can I stop your share so we can see one another?
I'm working on that now.
Okay. That was wonderful, Dan. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes.
That didn't stop it, did it?
There we go.
There you are.
Well, again. I really can talk a lot. I've been accused of verbal diarrhea once or twice.
Thank you. It was all there. It was very informative. It certainly gave a full picture. I see now where people like me have to go. You're going to hear from me as our MLA and CFIB and business navigation. So you're the next person.
Excellent.
To hear from me.
We were able to send up quite a list through the Canadian Federation of Municipalities as well. Bruce Morrison has been excellent in working. He works on that committee, and they reached out to him because of our focus on tourism. And they were able to take my words for verbatim and submitted my report directly to the Federal Minister of Tourism. So I do believe that we will see more programs coming out. Jeff McCullen said it this week, where because we don't know that timing, the government does not have programs specifically designed for tourism. They fully expect to design programs to suit tourism. They just don't know what those programs are yet until the timelines get a little more clear. Is it going to be a full year? Is it going to be a 2 month or 3 months? So until they get a little more clear on that, that's when you'll start to see these programs rolling out for business. And I think we also fall in a bit of a funny space, because we do have those smaller mom and pop shops, as they call them, not the government, not the corporate entities, and the seasonality side, that provincial grant, you know, who in this area in a seasonal business is open in April and February, because that's what they're basing that off. And if you're not making income in April and February, it's hard to show a loss.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's not the end of the day, but it's certainly, we're getting to the point where we got to get that information in and let them know there's gaps in the programs, and how do we feed those programs.
Well, it is reassuring that you have heard, this message has been heard by Jeff, by Bruce, by yourself. That's, at least it's out there now. Thank you.
Thank you. There is a tourism group, I'll let you know as well. Anybody that's involved in tourism, whether you're an employee or just share a big interest in it. On Facebook, we've created Victoria County Tourism Operators Group. If you search that, you should be able to find it, invite yourself in, and I'm on that quite a bit every day, and there's lots of good information and questions being shared around there. It's also one of the first, when an update to a program comes out, that's one of the first places I will post it, because it gets to the broadest audience at the point. And tomorrow afternoon, I think it's 1 o'clock, we're going to do exactly this. It's a little less formal. It's really just giving operators an opportunity to come in and talk to other operators and see what some of those challenges are, so we can start talking. And we actually have a representative from Tourism Nova Scotia, Destination Cape Breton, and a few other people joining that as well.
Okay, sorry, my phone rang.
That's okay.
I had to turn it off.
I was talking, so we didn't hear it anyway.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions out there, guys? Anything burning at your?
I wonder if you have any insight as to how we're going to be able to get the public back to some of these open spaces we have, beaches, et cetera. Is there any kind of planning as to how to do that? I don't know, taking social distancing into account, or how perhaps as things ease? I don't know. Do you have any insight around how we can experience our outdoor spaces?
Not a whole lot of insight on how it's going to happen. I do know that those are going to be the spaces that once restrictions are lifted, those are the ones that are going to be lifted first. Cape Breton Highlands National Park is going to be the model for a lot of what we do. When they lift, you know, they'll put some restrictions in place as to how much space between hikers and this sort of stuff. I would suspect that we will follow very closely on a lot of what they would do. The reality is Victoria County doesn't own those assets, so we don't really have the right to open or close them. The province will do some of that. We will absolutely provide supports and insights as to how we can do it. But I think the goal with outdoor spaces is really going to be, they're the only places that are going to be the place to go in some cases. So depending on how the restrictions lift, the goal will be to lift the outdoor spaces restrictions and keep them lifted so that we have those spaces available for people to use. After 3 or 4 months of this, nobody's going to be stuck in their own space anymore. They're going to want to get out and explore those, but how do we do it safely so that we don't have a second wave? I do know that the outdoor spaces will be the one area that I think we want to lobby behind to try and make sure they do stay open and stay sustainable, because that's one of our opportunities and our winning points that we can rely on to get people to come here and explore it. If we can have the Cabot Trail experience without having the risks of spreading disease, then we have the opportunity to have a market this year, more so than many other destinations. We actually are in a unique opportunity at that point.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking too. Like a food truck and a hike is pretty much a perfect day in Cape Breton.
Yeah. Or a picnic lunch takeout. You know, you stop at the Dancing Goat, grab a picnic lunch, and off you go.
Yeah.
Opportunity, stuff like that. So.
And that was my question around restaurants or takeout. Currently, aren't there some guidelines out now that people could perhaps open on a takeout basis? I believe there's some of those takeout facilities open in Cape Breton, aren't there?
There is,
Subway and that type of thing.
Destination Cape Breton has a full resource on their webpage of all takeout restaurants in Cape Breton, and you can break it down by regions as well. If you operate a food service, you can absolutely be open for takeout service. There is regulations around that.
That's what I thought. Okay.
In our industry, the challenge becomes, and I'm hearing it from a few food service places right now, is when you open at this time of year, your upfront costs to opening an operation are significant. To only open for a takeout service that isn't necessarily essentially needed in that community. So Ingonish is a prime example. Coastal Waters would normally start opening now. They're going to delay opening in May.
Lead off. I'm sorry.
They've worked with the local other operators in the community to say, you know what, this need is being filled right now. So rather than diluting that revenue to some degree, when they get tired and need a break, then they can shut down and we can open, and at least the community is being served at that point. So there's a lot of that grassroots discussions happening. But yeah, if somebody has a food service operation and they want to open, it's not a bad time to try it if your upfront costs don't become completely onerous. Lobster Pound in North Sydney is a good example. You know, it's a husband and wife team. They laid off their staff. Husband and wife go in and work all day, every day, but they've been making a killing, not profitable wise, but they're just delivering an amazing service to the community right now. They've been feeding one nursing home almost every night, and it's been donations coming in to help do that. So it's just a really good community service, and I think they'll benefit greatly after the fact. But they can keep their costs down because it's a husband and wife team, and they're not worried about employees and whatnot. So.
Right. Okay. Thanks. Let's go.
Excellent.
Well, thank you so much, Dan. This has been a really super successful first virtual seniors lunch, and I appreciate you and everyone here attending. And I should have said at the beginning, which I forgot to, which is that this session is recorded. All the sessions are going to be recorded. But because I didn't alert you to that at the beginning, I want to give you an opportunity, if you were on here, your picture or your audio, and you feel uncomfortable with that recording being shared, please reach out to me and let me know, because we won't share it publicly. But otherwise, our intention is to put it up on the Victoria County website. They'll have a YouTube channel there. I think Dan's been the one to set that up. And so every week we'll collect these, and then those who aren't able to join us will be able to watch the recordings after the fact.
Worth noting as well, council sessions are now being put up on that YouTube channel as well, and you'll be able to watch council sessions in future live on Facebook. We just started that this week for the first time. So. Got more people attending council now than we have in years.
No kidding. It's great. What an opportunity to be able to mix the virtual and the real contact to create some social participation. So it's great to see all of your faces. I'm thrilled that all of you came today, and I hope you come again next week and bring some friends, and we'll just we'll keep doing this as long as there's interest. So thank you again, Dan.
Thank you.
And thank you, Peggy, for introducing and carrying on some continuity with the seniors' lunch. Too bad we don't get to go eat now, but
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well.
Yeah, we'll have to do a food thing some week or something. I don't know. Share our food across the screens.
Thank you, Dan.
Take care, everyone. Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.